authors, it's Melody here. Welcome to Author Nation, your go-to resource for becoming a successful nonfiction author. And today we are with Marilyn Wilson. She reviews for iReads. So we're going to learn all about book blog tours. So hi Marilyn, how are you today?
I'm doing actually terrific. I'm loving the sun. I was getting a little winter sads going.
But the sun's come out.
The sun is out and shining and the wind has stopped and I've gone on some big walks and I feel terrific.
Brilliant. Excellent. So can you tell us how you came to be a book reviewer?
Back in 2015, I was getting ready to launch my first book and knew nothing about advertising. And my publisher at the time had an assistant that was assigned to me working on this. And one thing she suggested was a company called iRead Book Tours, like iBooks, it's in US dollars. It's actually a Canadian company. And what they do is you pick a length of tour, say 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 25 to 30, and they find bloggers who will sign up to review your book. So being inexperienced, I picked the biggest tour, which really was a lot. Probably looking back, I should have done the middle tour. They set it all up. We had a time set. So you pick date, say September 1st to September 20th. And then they run Monday through Friday. A different blogger will put their honest review up every day. So you're not paying for good reviews, you're paying for honest reviews. Most of those bloggers will also put their reviews onto places like Goodreads and on Amazon.com if they're able. So it's a way to start that process instead of trying to get your friends and family to do that. With it as well, you have the option of doing guest articles and you have the option of doing interviews, email interviews. Either you make them up yourself or they provide the questions. So it was a great way to reach out to people that I didn't know, because what you find as a new author, you have your friends, your family, the people you know on Facebook and social media, and getting outside that bubble, unless you're in the public eye, is very, very hard. So I think I ended up with 25 Amazon reviews on my first book, which was amazing. And I would not have gotten that without this tour, but it was expensive. I looked at the cost and said, okay, I forgot first it was US dollars. And then a lot of people, because they're not really being paid for these reviews, a lot of the reviewers, want you to mail them a print book. So you have the cost of the book and the postage on top of that. And because I picked 25 to 30, I had to mail a lot of books. So it was costly. I found it well worth it. I have done one with my second book with the same company, but at the same time, I realized I love to read. I love getting free books. You don't have to take any book they give you. They sign you up. So I found myself signing up and reading all these books I never would have been exposed to. And that gave me new material for my blog. It connected me with other authors. I also got a chance to see what other people's typesetting and book covers were like, how they approached it, what were they doing. So it gave me a lot of exposure to authors. So I've been doing it since 2015 now. I've been reviewing books for 6 years. Some of them have become favorites. Some of them I've never done again. You begin to get your favorite authors and you get their books ahead of time. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have so many questions, but just before I dive into kind of book blog tour questions, can you tell, and you hear about it all the time, it's so hard to get reviews, but they're so important. Can you just give us like the quick and dirty about why do we even want book reviews? How does that help us? And where are all the places, like just a quick list of the places where, it's a good idea to get reviews there.
Okay. I always start, I do author support as well. I always start by telling authors that the internet is like a spider web. If you have one string from here to there, you get very little attention. And the more strings you can put up, the better. So every place your book is mentioned and you are mentioned as an author increases your visibility. The search engines work better for you. So this is particularly true on Amazon. It's very hard to get reviews up on Amazon, and that's for a different discussion. But the more reviews you have, the more they put your book forward as a book somebody might want to read. It pays off. So other places include Instagram. There are bookstagrammers, they're called. The good ones all charge as well. There is Goodreads, which is a reader and author website. It's like a big resource for people. So if you're a published author and don't have your book on Goodreads and your author page, you should do that. You can even get little blips on Twitter. You can get them on Facebook. There's two ways people do it. Sometimes they put up their review, just a tiny review on Facebook if it's on social media, on Instagram. Or like I do, I put up a picture of the book and the author and then write a little opening and give a link to my book review, and I use that to drive stuff. So anything that's out in public, podcasts, all of those are a great place to get reviews. And I encourage authors to think of podcast interviews and interviews talking about your book, actually your book reviews too. Think outside the box a little bit. People are really into videos. Go on your Instagram TV and read a chapter of your book every day or a synopsis. But any place you can talk about your book is a book review in my mind. I think we need to think a little outside the box because people don't like to sit down and write those old-fashioned reviews as much anymore.
Yeah, awesome, excellent, thank you. Okay, let's get back to the book blog tour. So you pay iReads. We'll just use iReads as an example, but they're all very similar, I believe. Yeah. So you pay iReads, and they kind of hook you up with 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 bloggers who read books and do reviews on those books, and that gives you kind of, they have an audience, so that kind of spreads the word about your book. Plus, they might put their reviews up on Amazon or Goodreads or other places as well. So that's kind of like what it is. And the why is because, as you say, you only have so many friends. Even if you have a lot of friends, you still only have so many friends.
Yeah.
You want a wider net.
Yeah.
And so that it helps you build that wider net, right? So here's my first question. How much lead time? So if I have a book coming out, let's say January 2021, when should I start setting up my blog tour?
I'm thinking briefly because it depends on your marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If you, people who publish through Amazon have the option of doing pre-sales, and all those hit the first day the books go out. So that's a great way to get good bestseller rankings. So if you are publishing in a way that you can take pre-sales, you obviously want to have this run perhaps the 2 weeks before your book launches, so people can go and pre-order the book. Outside of that, and this is my personal opinion, I like to have both the print book and the ebook available because they're different markets. So I always look for 2 weeks, even a month after my book launch, because I do a book launch to hit those first markets to get that big bang. And then when that excitement has died down, then I feel it's the right time to look at a new way of promoting my book to a new market. And so I think I get better bang for buck when I'm actually doing it a little after, when I've got time to think about it. So it takes a couple months lead time for a company to set up a book tour for you usually, especially if you're looking for a larger one. If you're doing 10 to 15, it can come together a little more quickly, but you have to remember that you have to mail the books to them. They have to read them, or at least part of them. If they want an interview or a guest article, they have to email you for that. You have to create it and send it back, and then they have to get it all up on their blog. So you need a couple months lead time. When you know your book is coming out in October, say, August is a really good time to approach this if you're using a company. Now, the other side of this is you can do it yourself. It takes a lot of work, but you can do it yourself. You don't have as big a hammer to make sure people follow through. Even with a paid one, there's always people that fall through. And you have to find the people that are willing to do it, set up the dates. You are in control. So if you actually have the time, you can do this yourself. But I find at this point don't have the time. I like the fact that they're reaching out to bloggers I don't know. I don't have to worry about the list. My first one, they even got me one of the top Amazon reviewers who was in England at the time. And I thought, isn't this great? Like, I was really getting outside my thing. So if your money is limited, it's not that you can't do this. It's just you need to scale it back into something you can personally handle given your time.
Excellent. I love the fact that you have the experience as an author and as a reviewer, because you're kind of giving us both sides, which is, really, really good information. So whether I'm doing it by myself or whether I'm hiring someone, how do I find the good ones? How do I find the good kind of tour companies? Or if I'm doing it by myself, how do I find the good bloggers? Like, what would you suggest? Where do I start?
I was really lucky. I was recommended I Read Book Tours, and I do consider them personally the gold standard. In preparation for this, I actually did a search, and there are a lot of less expensive ones. They don't do quite the same thing. Sometimes they just do a cover campaign or an excerpt campaign. They do smaller things. So there are smaller ones. They seem to be focused more on romance. Young adult. They seem to have very specific markets. So when you're going to pay somebody, they always have previous tours listed. Go and see what they did. Click through the links. The links are all there. Go to their website, see what they offer. As far as book reviewers, it gets hard because as you go up, like I said on Instagram, if they've got 1 million followers, they're going to charge you a lot. If they've got 1,000 followers, their reach isn't as big, but you might get it for free. So start looking, put in book review bloggers, start going through them, go down their sites, reach out to them. You're going to get a lot of no's, you're going to get a lot of crickets, but work your way through it. I have tried meeting people in the media and saying, would you review my book if I give you one? And they always say, oh, sure. And I hand them a book, and that's the last I ever heard from them. So I think it's really important to find somebody who has a proper blog, that has a following, that has a social media presence. When you go, they have followers on Facebook, they have followers on their blog, they have followers on Instagram. They have a presence. They're not just throwing it up on a site that gets no hits. I'm very fortunate. I just had one of the nicest things said to me. One of the reviewers came on my thing and said, you actually read my book, you get it. And I think a lot of reviewers, if they're doing a lot of books, just scan. I know Kirkus, I've heard that criticism is they think they scanned a few chapters. They don't think they read them cover to cover. So as an author, what I bring when I review is that I know what they're doing. And sometimes something's given to me as a murder mystery, and it's actually a historical romance. If that's what it is, that's how I review it, because the bad reviews often are because it's portrayed the wrong way. It's so important to make sure your book is marketed. If it's a historical romance with a mystery, market it that way. Don't market it as mystery. I bombed out of one book because it was supposed to be about Jamaican history, a fiction book. But about the Black Power movement down there. And the first half of the book was nothing about anything but men having sex with women who couldn't say no, and even underage girls. And I came back and I said, I didn't agree to do this. So a lot of people love that book, but if you look at bad reviews, often they're because the book is marketed wrong.
So first step is make sure you're marketing your book properly.
Absolutely.
Understand your genre. And market it in your genre. Don't market it in another genre because that genre happens to be popular.
Yes.
So, and then I guess for a blog tour, then you know what genre it is, and you find bloggers who actually work with your genre.
Yes.
You don't send your mystery to a romance blogger.
Yep.
You find the right bloggers, and then you start looking at, what have they done? Look at their blog, look at their social media.
Absolutely.
See if they are a good fit for you. See what kind of following they have. If you're going to pay them, make sure they have the following that makes that amount worth it. Is that kind of a summary?
You nailed it. You have to do. That's why I pay a company. I don't have time to do that, but I know people who've done it very successfully.
Right.
And whether you do it yourself or somebody does it for you, one of the suggestions that I think is fabulous, and I have not done this, is you create a poster calendar on your website. and you put the name of each blog in order with a click-through link without the dates. So you have to check back once in a while. Sometimes these blogs disappear, but what it gives is an active way to people to look at reviews of your blog. Right. So you can call it the such and such blog review tour, and it can stay there as long as you make sure nothing disappears. It can stay there intact for as long as that book is for sale. So it gives you this long-term, instead of just Amazon or something like this, it gives you this really long-term visual that people come to your site can interact and see, well, I like this book. I really don't want somebody reading my book that doesn't like that kind of book. Yes. It doesn't do me any good. And I continually, when I put my reviews up on Amazon, I continually look at the poor reviews, and 90% of the time, it's just the wrong reader. It's just they don't like that kind of book. That's not what they're there for. So marketing is so important. So what do I look for when I get a book? First of all, you have to realize this is an honest review. It doesn't matter how much you love your book. If you haven't got proper editing and typesetting and cover art, that's a mark against you before I even pick it up. And it's really unfortunate, but it colors how I read. You know, I think, well, he didn't spend any time on this book or any money. Will it be any good? Sometimes it's okay. And working with a pro doesn't guarantee you that you're going to get a quality thing. One of the worst books I got was from, and I won't say it, but somebody who helped authors publish books. And this man went through her. All the margins were too small. The outside cover was so busy, I couldn't read it. I couldn't read the words on the back cover. And the font made my eyes go. And he paid for that help. So when you look for good help, it's really worth it. A poor cover, bad typesetting, lack of editing can take what's a really great story and a really great read and make it unappealing. And it's sad to lose a rating simply because you didn't go through the proper steps. Yeah. No, that is. I agree. I've seen lots of books that just don't have that professional touch. Yep. And you can take a really great story and not present it in a way, and not package it in a way, and not actually have it written in a way that's digestible. And I find that's a real shame, because we have great imaginations. So, but I understand it is expensive to self-publish, and there's no guarantee that you'll make your money back. Like any entrepreneurial risk, right? Authorship, self-publishing is a risk. So tell us a little bit about, how do I set them up? How do I contact this person? Or, when I contact iReads, how do I set up a blog tour for success? Like, I really want a return on my investment. As I just said, I'm an author. There's no guarantee. I've put a lot of money and effort and time and energy and love into this book. There's no guarantee I'll get anything back. So if I'm going to pay extra money for an iReads tour, I want to ensure that I get a return on my investment. I want to do my very best. How do I do that? You allow them, first of all, enough time. Mm-hmm. You show up with a good product. Mm-hmm. And you talk to them about what you want. To have a successful blog tour, I think it's really important to do the interviews and guest articles. Those are extras that bring in more people. In fact, to get a review anywhere, when you have a new book, I say this all the time and nobody does it. You should have five pre-written interviews. Come up with 50, 100 questions, separate them out into 5 different interviews that kind of cover the same but ask it different ways, and have your answers ready to go. You reach out to a book blogger. I notice you cover nonfiction. I have this new book out. I would love to get you to review it. I'm setting up a blog tour. Is there a time you would be free? I also have pre-written interviews ready for you if you would like. Newspapers, magazines saying, I have a pre-written interview ready to go on I did that with At 45 magazine. She says, I want to help you with your book. I said, I have an interview ready to go. All you have to do is put up a picture of me in the book. And she said, done. And it was up in 24 hours. Wow. So all these little extras help. I found the guest articles the hardest. When you're doing 10 to 15, only a percentage asked for these things. So it's not so hard. When you pick 25 to 30, I had to, in 2 weeks, come up with like 12 pre-written interviews and 5 pre-written guest articles.
Right.
And a lot of times they'd say, come up with your own topic. So you had to go to their blog and see what kind of articles they had on there and what their focus is and try to come up with something that made sense. So it was a lot of work. But those side things make for so much difference. When I review a book, you'll see it on YBR Authors, which you run on Facebook. I don't put the book review there, but I have an author interview every time I do a new author, and I have that separate so I can share it in author groups, and that drives traffic eventually to their book because there's links between them. So all the extras you can add in, but you do have to allow enough time. You do have to be ready to mail out books so that they can get them in time. You don't want to give them a book and they have to have a review up in a week. It's not going to happen. They need at least a month, depending how many books they have. But you just have to be ready to work. And the other thing is, every single time a blog goes up, every single day, you have to share across your social media. You have to comment on their blog, even if it wasn't a good review. You have to comment and say, thank you for your comments. I learned a lot. I hadn't thought of that. Everything has to be positive. When I look at somebody emails me aside from I read book tours, the first thing I look is, do they have a social media presence? Am I doing this for them, or are they going to help me by driving traffic back to my site? I want to know it's reciprocal because I'm not getting paid. I want to know it's reciprocal. And again, it's like a web. The more people that share this link, the more successful that message will get out there. So it's all about getting your message out there. So don't try to set this up when you have no time.
Yeah.
Be ready to work. Be ready to give yourself. Be ready to even if you're angry at the review. Be ready to respond and interact with these people, because some of these people will be approached when you bring out your next book, and you want to have a good relationship with them. Having reviewed so many people, I have a good relationship with a lot of authors, and if I need something, I get it. You build that it's a relationship.
Yeah, it makes sense. And so, if this is my first book, I guess what I do is, as I'm writing the book or after I write the book, I kind of plan out 6 months for promotion. I get some, interview questions going. I have some summaries. I'm putting it on my social media. I contact through email or through their contact page book bloggers who work with my genre. I then work with them. I give them what they want. Some do book cover, some do author interviews, some do guest posts, some do book reviews. Am I missing anything?
Contests. Now,
Okay.
I personally am not an expert on that. There are ways you can run contests. I'm lucky in that I Read Book Tour runs it for me. It's called a raffle copter. You decide your prize. It can be Amazon gift cards. It could be copies of your ebook. I always make sure I have my own ebook file, because then I can say 10 free ebooks, I'm giving away 10 free, and then have 1 or 2 good prizes. So they're very easy to give away. So they run it, and to qualify for this contest, you get 1 point for following on the Facebook page. You get 1 point for following your the author's Instagram account. You get 1 point for following. So you get entries for connecting with the author. So I walk away with more social media connections from it.
Right.
So it's great. So they use something called Rafflecopter. I don't know if you can do it yourself, but when I looked at it, a lot of these blog tour things that are out there, they often suggest you have some sort of giveaway. So you have to figure out, if you're running it yourself, how that will run. How will you run it, and what will the prize be? But what you want from it is more social media connections the most. Yeah.
So what it sounds like is book tours or blog book tours are a piece of a puzzle, the promotion puzzle.
Yes.
And you don't it's not a passive way to market your book. It's actually a really active way to market your book.
Yes.
And you fit it in with a whole bunch of other things in that 6 months or 1 year or 3 months or however long your big push is. And you do, an Amazon push, and then you do a book blog tour push, and somewhere in there you do book promotion sites, and they all kind of play a part. They're all kind of puzzle pieces to kind of fill in so that you can be successful. And if you spend a lot of money on them, you'd better be active and have a lot of content to share.
And be willing to be prepared. I was not prepared. Fortunately, I worked from home. I was not prepared for the amount of time I needed to spend in the 2 weeks leading up to the start of my thing in creating my own interviews and writing guest articles and writing. I really just lived and breathed it for the last 5 days, trying to get everything to people on time. But that was because I picked too big of a tour. I still think about 15 is, 12 to 15 is right. You can, and people forget, if you want to keep your book selling, you have to keep going on podcasts. You have to keep finding new places to talk about it. You keep reaching out to new bloggers and stuff, but you want to space it out so you don't use them all. It's not a constant. Say once a year, you should look at, even on your old books, trying to redo them. You never really stop.
Yeah. No.
We all assume we do it. Our book's out there. This was my assumption when I launched my first book. I had 150 people at a launch. I had entertainment. I made bestseller lists on Amazon. And I remember going home and saying, I'm done. This is going to bring me a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it. Look, I launched it successfully. It has its wings. Now it will take care of itself. Yeah. No, it doesn't. And I think that's what's hard for authors, myself included, is that it is a constant, once a month, you got to start looking. For those who do not know, Apple Podcasts has a list by category of all the podcasts out there. There are thousands and thousands and thousands. If you spend once a month going on there looking for people covering the topic your books are about as a nonfiction writer, and if not a nonfiction writer, they have fiction reviewers as well, and reach out to 3, you could do 1 podcast a month for the rest of your life. The ability is out there. And what you wanted, again, is good social media presence, the ability to talk about your book, and they need to let people know your website. So if people are interested, but it's just that, it's that spider web you have to continue building, and book reviews are only one part of it.
Yeah.
And where you can put them is so many places. Each section is another area by itself. So figuring out how you want to move through this. It's easy when you have the excitement of a new book coming out. Yeah. Where it gets hard is as you try to continue to move with books you're tired of. Yeah. Like, I love all my books, but I am so tired of promoting the one that came out in 2015, even though the message is still relevant. So this is good for me to even go over this, because it reminds me what I should be doing.
Yeah, so I have one final question. Book blog tours, is that what I do when I launch, or is that what I should do once a year, or is that what I do now and then? What would you say?
Again, I think when you're launching, your first area of focus is a launch campaign. Mm-hmm. And that's not what this is about. We're not going to go there. Yeah. I still think the blog tours, in my opinion, come after that. Yeah. The excitement's died down, but the book is still new. That's a great place. Whether you do it each year or not, a blog tour is a great way to start getting those first reviews up. If you work with bloggers that can review on Amazon, and again, that's another discussion, but Amazon is really tight on who can post reviews.
Yes, they are.
And every author I deal with in author support says, my friends and family bought my book, but none of them are posting reviews. And I keep saying, because they're not your customer. Yeah. They're not your customer. And people honestly don't like typing reviews anymore. Life is changing. It's getting very video oriented. I'm beginning to think that you'd do better saying, give me a 10-second review and I'll post it on my Instagram page.
Yeah, nice.
Because people are very visual and they like to to post stuff on Instagram. So for the younger reader in particular, I think we need to rethink how we're doing reviews. I don't think the system as it is works for younger people. They're more visual.
Yeah, makes sense. So now
My opinion.
You don't do it as a launch, but you do it sometime after that. Do you do it next year? And then, so like podcasts, I could be on a podcast once a month. Use it. I could do a book blog tour once a year.
If you can find new bloggers with an audience you have not reached, you can continue to do this as long as you think your book is relevant enough to get. I mean, look at some of these books, We Still Eat, Pray, Love, and all these ones that have been around for a long time, and they're still on bestseller lists. So as long as you are marketing your book, podcasts, book reviews, blog tours, all of those are still relevant. If you feel your book is not going to receive that kind of reception anymore, it's gotten dated, it's really not worth your money. Write a new one. Write a new one. It's time. And again, as everybody says, the best way to promote your previous books is to write a new one.
Yes, so true. I agree. Thank you, Marilyn, so much for all of your amazing information. Please tell us where we can find you.
Okay, first I'm going to hold these up.
Yeah.
These are the two books. They're not focusing well. The Life Outside the Box and The Wisdom of Listening are my two books. They're available on Amazon and most places, and you can find out direct links and more about me or reach out to me either through Facebook, Instagram, or my website at MarilynRWilson.com.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And all of that will be in the description, along with lots and lots and lots of resources. Marilyn has given me so many links. It's amazing. So that's what you need to know if you're considering doing a book blog tour. And if you would like those resources, and if you'd like to connect with Marilyn, please check out all of those links in the description below. Thank you so much.
It was great to be here.